Hi guys, and welcome to Sweden. Today is a beautiful day, clear blue skies, not a cloud to be seen. And I'm lucky enough that I live on the shores of a beautiful lake, so I have decided to get the kayak out and go out for a paddle. When I left home this morning, there was no wind, the lake was basically a mirror. The lakes have been free of ice for at least 10 days, so the water is still a little bit chilly. I think it was 4 or 5 degrees this morning. But I've decided to go out on the lake for a paddle anyway. And the lighting conditions are not ideal since I'm going in the middle of the day basically. But today photography is more of an excuse to go out on the lake than anything else, I think. So I'm gonna enjoy my time and try to photograph what I can find. This island here in front of me, or should I say this group of rocks, is a nesting place for waterfowl in the spring, birds like terns and seagulls. So I think this is the first and last time that I can pass through these islands without disturbing the birds. The wind has now picked up a little bit, and so it's pushing me around and making it more difficult for me to frame my shots because I have to constantly adjust the composition to compensate for the wind pushing me away from my shot. And the clear blue skies are really not the most interesting to shoot either. But on a chilly day like today, I appreciate to have a little bit of sun to warm me up. It's the first time that I stop on that island. Actually, it's more of a big rock than an island, but it's also another nesting place for waterfowl a little bit later in the season. So I'm taking this opportunity to stop here. Actually, what caught my eye at first is this tree behind me, but I couldn't make the shot work. Instead, what I just saw were some cracks in the rock. The rock is sloping down gently on this side of the island. So that was the foreground interest for my shot. And in the background I have the tree where my kayak is attached to, plus some islands in the back. So I'm quite happy with this shot, even if the light is very harsh now. And yeah, for this shot I was using my 16 to 35 millimeter lens, so that's my wide angle lens. And the difficulty for that shot, well, there were multiple difficulties. I needed to go in the water, so that's fine, I have my wellies on. But the rocks themselves are fairly slippery because they have some algae on top of them. Plus there was my shadow creeping into the shot, and on top of that there's also my kayak attached to the tree, which is part of the image, so I hope it's not going to be too much of a distraction. Those islands are just so beautiful. You've got to shoot them, even if the light is quite bad at the moment. I just had my lunch and my coffee, and I took a little bit of time to relax. But when I was eating, I noticed this cliff in the background here. And so I've been trying to compose a shot, and I came across those reeds, which make for my foreground. And I'm also including some trees, some pine trees on the left. So nothing fancy here, but I think that this shot works. The only tricky part is my vertical positioning. I mean, the height at which I'm standing impacts the balance between the reeds in the foreground and the background. So that's why I was trying different heights, and I will see which one I prefer. On a day like today, where the sun is high in the sky and the lighting conditions are very stable, doesn't change a lot, I like to put my camera to manual mode. Sometimes when you leave the camera on auto or aperture priority, it tends to underexpose or overexpose a shot depending on where you're pointing the camera. So in this case, I'm using f8 at 1/200th of a second and 100 ISO, and that's basically my go-to exposure for bright sunlight days like today. I came across this scene here, and I've been trying to photograph the small pine tree on the rock over here, and trying to include some of the water in the foreground, because as the waves are playing with the sunlight, it makes for beautiful light patterns. But unfortunately, I'm casting my own shadow on the shot, so I'm not sure that this is going to turn out. We'll see. I was photographing the tree that's growing on those rocks with its reflection in the puddle just in front of me here. Again, the tricky part for this shot is to try to not include my own shadow into the frame. And then for this shot I'm using f11 instead of my usual f8 for today. because I want to really maximize the depth of field, because the puddle is fairly close to me and the tree fairly far at the contrary, so I need to adjust for this distance difference. I've been trying to photograph that same tree that I was photographing from the shore, but now I'm on my kayak, but obviously it's a lot harder and I need to adjust my position constantly because the wind is actually pushing me onto those rocks like it is at the moment. But I think it's worth it with the waves crashing in the foreground and the rocks, the tree and the island in the background. I think that just makes for a fairly small shot, so I'm happy that I've made the effort to get this shot. But I think it's time to get back home now, and I hope the wind and the waves won't make my ride back too hard. Well, the wind is getting fairly strong now, and I'm going against it, so the water is fairly rough as well. But I have to get going. It's the only way back, and I will try to stick to the shorelines, try to get shelter from the islands. In my last video, I was mentioning that I broke the protective glass on the top screen of this camera. Well, it is now fixed. And in that video, I was also mentioning a few reasons why I prefer the R5 Mark II compared to my 5D Mark III. Well, there's one thing that I do not enjoy that much with this camera, and I think it's the same for basically all of the mirrorless cameras, is the battery life. Today I forgot to bring any spare batteries with me. I did not take my usual backpack, and this shot that I just did of this gnarly old pine I think will be my last shot, because the battery is running low now, whereas with my 5D Mark III I could have gone for days even with just one battery. So I will see you guys next time, and have a good one.